Welcome to another episode of the BJJ Fightgear Lockdown Talks. My name is Misha and I'm here with my co-host Jan, the human forklift. Today we have a special guest, which I'll introduce in a moment. If you like the channel, if you like the episodes, the interviews that we've been bringing out so far, please subscribe. And also let us know in the comments below what you think of the interview and what you'd like to see. Today we're talking to a special guest, Rodrigo Medeiros, maybe also better or known as Comprido. Jiu Jitsu legend, 2 times black belt world champion, trained successful MMA fighters such as Dean Lister, Brock Lesnar, and known for having the fastest submission in black belt finals history. Comprido, welcome and thank you for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. It's a big pleasure to be here with you guys. Let's have some fun together.
Yes, definitely. How's you're in Chicago? How's your life right now? Are you guys in a lockdown or are you training? How's it going?
No, hopefully Friday we're gonna move to phase 4. And then right now what we are doing, we are able to host classes for up to 10 people outside the academy.
Okay.
Okay, my academy is inside the mall, so I'm on the mall parking lot, hosting classes on my puzzle mats, and then it's a little bit chaotic, but we are able to do, and luckily Friday we're back inside.
Yeah, good. But then you can actually do drilling, sparring, or is it going to be solo drills?
They don't give us specific directions. What we decide to do, I have some people help me to come up with a protocol. You know, the IBJJF released a protocol, and then I check the protocol for other academies, and then we decide to do a protocol for Brazza. And at least for the first two weeks that we come back inside, you're gonna have groups of 4 people and separate them on the mat, and then you just stay with your group.
Yeah.
And then you do everything together, you know, because if you're drilling with someone, you can spar with the same person. It will be the same.
Yeah.
So we're gonna split the area here, and then each group of 4 are gonna be in one area, and then we're gonna see how things go, you know.
Yeah. Oh, exciting! I mean, everybody must have been waiting for a really long time to get back on the mats. So I can imagine that will be a very happy moment.
Yeah, I guess will be, you know, but it's also important that we don't relax too much, because the worst thing that can happen for any of us is open the academy and be forced to close again.
Yeah.
You know, so we are in a very vulnerable situation because we have so much contact, and a lot of people don't see this as an essential business. You know, and then if you will open and we're forced to close, people will lose the confidence in Jiu-Jitsu, and then they might decide to take a much longer gap than they initially planned.
Right.
And this will not be good for us, you know.
Yeah, I totally understand. So it will be step by step and see how it's going.
Yeah, very important to clean the gym, to make sure there's no crowds on the locker rooms, you know. So we change a little bit our schedule. We put a little bit bigger gap in between classes for don't have so much people in the locker room at the same time.
Oh yeah.
You know, we give directions for people to go really fast there, people who don't need to go to the locker. We will keep the parents outside the gym, you know. So every little thing we can do to minimize the risk, we have to do. I know it's annoying. I know, man, nobody likes to wear a mask. I don't like to wear a mask, but we have to. Even if you don't believe, for respect to the other people.
Right. Okay. So everybody has to wear a mask during training.
No, not in training. But if you're inside you know, I'm inside the mall. You go inside the mall. To get inside the mall, you have to wear a mask. You know. And then if you're talking with somebody on the front desk, you also should be wearing the mask, you know?
Yeah.
And then you should do, like, now is not the time to keep a group of people having a chat inside the academy. You might could do that on a parking lot, you know, because I heard that it's 18 times easier to contract the virus indoors than outdoors.
Right.
So if the students want to congregate go downstairs, go to the parking lot, have a chat, have a fun, tell what's going on with you. And, we have to do our part to make sure our sport doesn't get hit even harder, because I know that a bunch of people were forced to close academies. A lot of people take super bad revenue drops. I did have a huge revenue drop. Luckily, I could hold myself, but I know some other people just had take loans and stuff like that, so it is a time to be cautious.
Yeah, definitely. And what was it like for you in the past few weeks? Like personally, how did you keep your head clear with this challenging times, and did you do any training yourself?
So in the beginning, man, I honestly didn't know what to do. Like the first, when this happened, I remember that I was talking with a few friends that I would be waiting until Monday to decide if I would close my gym open. And then Friday we decide to close. Things escalate so fast that Friday we decide to close.
Right.
And then on the first 10 days, I did not have an answer, what to do. And then I was talking with a couple of friends, and then they mentioned those Zoom classes, and then that's what I started to do. And then for the whole period of the pandemic, we've been having those Zoom classes. What are not perfect, is pretty much doing drills. Yeah. But that's what we did, and then keep ourselves active, keep our students active, seeing each other, be able to talk with each other, get the mind clear for couple minutes, and I also have the experience that I always had a guest instructor on my Zoom class. I have Caio Terra, I have Léo Vieira, I have Léo Leite, I was guessing on those guys, I guess on Pé de Pano, so we keep Marcos Escobar, we keep doing that to try to keep it interesting to the students, but it was a big challenge. I will not lie.
Yeah. And yeah, I really hope that they can pick up their interest again when they get back to the gym now this Friday. We called this series the Lockdown Talks to also talk with people and see how things are going during the lockdown. We'll be at the day of recording this. We'll be like next week before we can put it live. We'll do some editing and everything. So I really hope by the time people see this that your academy is fully open and everything is going all right. And we'll see some steps there.
Yeah, thank you. I'm pretty sure Friday we're gonna do our next step, and we will evaluate if it is time, when it's time to let people run. Spar freely, and if it's time to still hold them back, so it is a lot of responsibility. We deal with a lot of people. If somebody get infected and then spread the disease, back home, they have grandparents, and normally the disease is not so bad in young people, but on the elderly,
right,
and then we have to protect everybody in our community.
Yeah. That's, I think young people need to really realize that you're not only doing it for yourself, you're protecting the vulnerable among us. I was wondering if we could go back a little bit from today to back to the 90s, early 2000s, when you were competition-wise speaking at your top, let's say. And I think it's really interesting for people, including myself and Jan, to hear a little bit about that time also from you, when you were yourself and you also trained with all the people that are now kind of considered legends in the jiu-jitsu space. So I'm very curious to hear how that was like for you when you were competing. So when you were a world champion in 98 as a brown belt, and then 99 and 2000 as black belt, and you were training with all these people, like how do you look back at this period?
Man, was a good time. I were a world champion on the first worlds in 96.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
This is stuff on the internet. When, like I always tell people, when you go check my information, go to my website, because there's some information that is not accurate or they skip something.
Yeah.
But in '96 was the first Worlds. I was a blue belt adult, and then I was first on my division and second on the open weight. Was a period of time that I could just train, right? I did not have too much responsibility. My gym was a block away from my house, so that was amazing. Give me so much freedom to train as much as I want to. I ended started training in a place that had a lot of very good competitors, and on top of that, we developed this network inside the team where we keep traveling to train with each other. So I used to go to Espírito Santo, where Jamelão was based, a lot, and training with the guys from there. I used to go to São Paulo a lot and training with the guys in São Paulo. Léo Vieira was my best friend since I was very young.
Right.
So then he moved to São Paulo, and then I was going to São Paulo all the time to train over there as well. And then the guys coming to Rio, and then Trave have his academy. Castelo Branco has his academy close by in Rio. So we keep trading information, inside our own team all the time, and then this engagement, I think, was fundamental for any kind of success that I present,
Right. Yeah. And when you, like, if we would go back even further, when you started out, were you immediately very focused on competition? Because last week we spoke to Beatriz Mesquita, and she told us that if you compare it to the US, the jiu-jitsu culture in Brazil is a little bit more on, just in general, just more on training and more recreational, as far as I understood from her. Was that also the case in where you started off, or was there a big focus?
And Brazil was more recreational than America?
Well, maybe that there's less people going very focused on competition, but maybe she was talking mainly about women. That might be a difference.
Yeah, I don't know. So I cannot make comments on what she's saying because I don't know the whole context.
No, of course.
But I came from a place that it was competition based, and then I believe competition makes you strong for your life.
Yeah.
Go to jiu-jitsu competition. These make you more comfortable making hard decisions, make you more comfortable making fast decisions. If you are, let's say, if you're in a place and you see somebody having a heart attack, you are more willing to go there and do something and help and call 911. If you're in a car accident, you're more willing to make a fast decision. If you are in a business meeting or in a job interview, you're more willing to relax and let things go, show yourself better, because you be forced to take decisions under pressure. That's what jiu-jitsu is. When I start, that's exactly like everyone who competes jiu-jitsu knows. In the beginning, you think about doing something, and then when you realize the gap to do the technique already pass.
Yeah.
And then with practice, you learn how to deal with adrenaline. Oh, I'm sorry.
No worries.
And then even says, scam likely.
Oh, they even have a name.
As I'm on the interview.
Yeah. And
so okay. So the competition make you more confident to make hard decisions, to deal with the adrenaline, to position yourself, to impose yourself when you are being trapped, when you're in a vulnerable position. So I think that's very important. So the place that I come from were one of the centers, one of the top academies of competition at the time. So I always have this understanding, and early on, I jump on that boat. I wasn't good, but, I knew it would be about time. If I keep working hard, I would eventually achieve some of my goals.
Yeah. And then when you started to have successes, and later on you went, like when we're talking about 96 to 2000, you won multiple world titles. If you look at that period specifically, how different was it then, the competition scene or being at a tournament? Were there differences compared to if you were there now, if like the 2019 World Cup or World Championships?
Um, Obviously, at that time is the time 2006. If I'm not wrong, the IBJJF was created in 2005. In 95. Okay, I started training Jiu-Jitsu in 1993.
Yeah.
So I was a child of the IBJJF. I saw and I was part of all that development. You know, the time that we did not have advantages, and then we have advantages, and rules changes, and when we used to have flag keepers, you know, who decide the fight, and you know, a bunch of stuff that come in and improve. The refereeing today is much better than what was back then, and still have a lot of room to improve. You know, we need the professional referees. They are much better. They run a much tighter ship now, but there's still a lot of space to improvement. Before, they just got a couple guys there on the tournament and then tell them to referee the fight. Now those guys are prepared. They work in more tournaments, you know, it's a circuit. But still, I think they should to get paid better. They should to get more committed. They should to have rules for what they do outside the mat, not because they could not do stuff, but because it's really stressful work. And every time they walk outside the competition area, is 10 people ask them for decisions they had made early on the day, and they cannot relax, they cannot rest the head for the next day, start again fresh, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But the competition obviously improved, is a lot of more people competing. The level is improving as any sport, you know, the conditioning, the physical part, the supplementation, the gear, you know, everything improves, you know, so it's the normal in any sport, you know, your equipment is better, the science is better. And Jiu-Jitsu is a live martial arts that we keep creating new stuff every single minute, you know? So you take something that was super new on early 2000s, and this is old now, but this make possible some creations, you know, like let's say berimbolo, the helicopter becomes berimbolo, you know? So it's a variation, is a evolution of a technique. You know, and in Jiu-Jitsu allows that to happen. When you go to boxing, nothing changes. It's the same 4 punches, the same 4 defenses. You just have to be faster and stronger.
Right. Yeah. And it's what I wasn't there at the time, but there were probably less or smaller tournaments. Did you feel that was also a bit of a limitation in terms of when you compare to now, that you have less opportunity to get better at competing?
Nah, look, on my time, it was no white belt tournaments. I wish to had start to compete as white belt, but wasn't any, you know, and then this was a blowback. I wish to, because my first year, I lost everything, right? So every single tournament I compete, I lost until the last 2. If I had start earlier as white belt, I think I could pass this phase where I wasn't comfortable inside the mats, where I was with the butterflies on my stomach and could not sleep on the night before, and delaying my actions. Yeah. You know, but once I started to compete, I compete as much as I wish. You know, like I could go travel a little bit to compete if I wish to. You know, of course, today you have a lot of more tournaments. The circuit is huge. But like if somebody, I always compete a lot, you know, if somebody really wants to compete at the time, they could, you know, it was much better than, let's say on the 70s and 80s, where those guys have maybe 2 competitions a year.
Yeah.
You know, so it was really hard for those guys. Those guys start everything, you know, everything we create and was developed after us is because those guys start these things, you know, those tournaments, whether cups, you know, company cup or Nastra cup, or, you know, it's not even national tournaments or state tournaments, you know, some state tournaments, you know, at that time.
Yeah.
But those guys open up the doors for us. I was talking with Liborio the other day. I said, hey, Liborio, tell me, when is the first time that you actually got paid to fight? And he said, oh, it was Abu Dhabi.
Right. Yeah.
You know, so imagine somebody who's been competing since early 80s, only got paid in 2000s.
Yeah. That's
you know?
Yeah, we need to be very thankful for the people that started all that and built it brick by brick, so that we have what we have today. Yeah. You, over the years, you have trained several MMA fighters and UFC champions. How did you get into that, and how were you able to coach them without necessarily having a very big MMA background yourself?
Yeah, I was never my dream to pursue the MMA career, but around 2000s, I got an offer to fight in Pride. And then I started training, but then the offer fell short. The manager who was in charge, I don't know, he lost his job. I don't know exactly what happened. And then I start training boxing at the time. And then I keep doing jiu-jitsu, you know, because that's what I love to do. That's what I like to do. And I never pursued this again. In 2007, I moved to United States. And then I remember I actually took a plane with Liborio, and Liborio was already the head of American Top Team. And then we were talking on the plane, and then we talk about MMA. I said, dude, I don't want to work with MMA. It's not my thing. And I said, dude, are you crazy? Like, they need you. They need people with a strong ground background. Jiu-Jitsu is extremely important for MMA. So we have this conversation. Nothing comes out of that. And then a little bit later, I got a call from one of my students telling that somebody will contact me about training Brock Lesnar. And I didn't knew who Brock was at the time. I just knew he was somebody told me, a wrestling giant. I said, what the fuck is that? And then I called another good friend, you know, like I try to get advice from wise people. So I called Kid Peligro. And then I said, hey, is this guy Brock Lesnar, blah, 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 invite me to training him and something like that. And at this point, I had no idea who Brock was. Geraldo said, I think he's 220 pounds. And he said, I think he's 300 pounds, Comprido. Oh. And then, like, we have a conversation. I said, man, I don't want to go train with this guy. I'm going to get hurt. And then Geraldo said, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? I'm sorry if you cannot curse, you know, just keep going.
You can.
He said, what are you talking about, Comprido? You are absolute world champion. Like, go there and train with the guy. Do what you do.
Yeah.
He said, okay, I will go. And then I start to work with Brock. Short after, the academy I was working had MMA, you know, but, you know, it's a gym, a local gym, not really good fighters. So Brock was when I really started to work with MMA seriously.
Yeah.
And then I have this other guy, a local police officer who actually was top 10 on UFC, Mike Russo, who are actually training with me every single day. And then I started to work a little bit with that. But to be honest, I did not enjoy as much as working with Jiu-Jitsu, you know, but was a great experience. I worked with Tony Ferguson, with Damian. Damian was my teammate the whole entire life. So
yeah,
I have opportunity to work with Damian, and I work with a lot of good people, you know.
So Tony Ferguson learned most from,
you know?
Tony Ferguson learned most from you, because I think he always talks about training at 10th Planet. But
No, Tony, I was on the Ultimate Fighter
okay.
as a jiu-jitsu coach.
Okay.
So if I'm not wrong, Tony went there afterwards because Tony lives in California. I live in Chicago.
Okay.
So during the period of the Ultimate Fighter, I was training him at the house, and then afterwards he came to Minnesota because there's a gap between the show, record the show, and then the final fight.
Yeah.
During this period of time, he came to Minnesota, and we'll be training him for his final fight that he won.
Right.
But he trains with on 10th Planet, and then I think he trained with Paragon as well. I think he was training with Paragon before with Franjinha, and then he trained with the guys from 10th Planet.
Okay.
Yeah. Do you what do you think it's for like, let's say, pro jiu-jitsu or jiu-jitsu champions that they have a couple of world titles or a lot, and then they are like, okay, what's next? I want to move into MMA. What do you see as the biggest challenges for them? Obviously, they need to learn how to strike, but in terms of maybe adapting their jiu-jitsu a bit.
Yeah, is adapting, is be able to do this cross training, you know, like now the things are a little bit different, but when I came here, you know, when I was raised in jiu-jitsu, we think, those wrestlers are people who just are too strong. They take steroids and they lift the things.
Right.
That's what we believe. You know, I have the opportunity to work with a wrestling camp for many years, and that's not what they are. There's a lot of technique in what they do. They don't use, they are stronger because the way wrestling is set up as a sport demands pressure nonstop, you know, but those guys are really technical, you know. Was really good to do this cross training with them and to learn the way they do things, because the science is the same. The mechanics, the concepts are the same for jiu-jitsu, for wrestling, for judo, you know, so, but you have to adapt.
Right.
And then the way they training and the way we train is completely different. Jiu-jitsu is a lot more laid back than wrestling, you know. So when somebody comes out of the jiu-jitsu training and then go to MMA, they need to connect with a good camp, a good group of people who know what they are doing. You know, it's a completely different. Like to begin with, it's just 5 minutes. You cannot give anything, you know, and then if you are on the top of your game, you're fighting 10 minutes, you know, many fights of 10 minutes. There, you're going to fight 3 rounds of 5 minutes with 1 minute in between. So just there is adjustment that you have to do really well. You know, you cannot lose position in 5 minutes, you know, the fight is over, especially because, especially UFC, they tending to push you to fight standing. So you don't have much time to do your stuff on the floor.
Yeah.
And so that's the biggest challenge, in my opinion. You start to adapt to these new rules, adapt to the new training, because you're going to have to do box, you're going to have to do kickbox, you're going to have to do wrestling. You know, you're going to have to get used to fight with your back against the wall. But I think jiu-jitsu is made for that.
Yeah.
You know, it's made, MMA is made because of that, you know, like it came from the early jiu-jitsu fighters, you know. UFC is something what they take from Brazil, what the MMA fights that we used to have in Brazil, and then Horian put on that format, and UFC took over, you know, like ending to the hands of Dana White and the Fertitta brothers, and then they keep pushing the sport up and up and up.
Yeah. You mentioned wrestling a couple of times. Do you think wrestling has a big impact or has had a big impact on, of course, the jiu-jitsu that came from Brazil and then got very widespread in the United States with a very big wrestling culture in like college wrestling and everything? I'm not sure how big wrestling is in Brazil actually, but do you think the American wrestling had a big impact on the development of jiu-jitsu?
No, probably not. Probably not, because it's still a lot of separation. You know, I don't have as much wrestlers training at my academy as I wish.
Right.
And you
Why
see
is that?
some, I don't know, because well, I believe that, like, when you become a wrestler, is on the culture of the American people, like, is a college sport, right? And most of the kids, most of the parents, when they put the kids on the wrestling, they are aiming to get a free ride, free scholarship.
Yeah.
When the kid becomes 18, whatever, when they go to the college, you know, and so in between 5, depending when they start, but between 5 and 22, 23, 22, they are just doing wrestling with the goal of going to the college. Okay. After that, the very good ones wants to stay to try the Olympics. Okay. And then some believe that that's time to go to MMA, and the huge majority stop the training, you know, because there's so much pressure for so long. And that's my analysis, and then I'm the person who's not so involved in wrestling. I could be saying something very stupid now, you know, like somebody who is, but I don't see too much, like Jiu-Jitsu. You see old people training Jiu-Jitsu, lots of old people training Jiu-Jitsu, because first of all, they start later. Second, the Jiu-Jitsu is not that hard on your body.
Yeah.
You know, you can roll lightly, and, you know, everybody have that old guy on the academy who trains on his own terms. You know, for wrestling, this is kind of hard to do. You know, you start to see these old wrestlers, they kind of arch the backs and they walk a little bit like Master Yoda, and then they start to move like Master Yoda as well, and when the time comes. But I don't know. I don't think we compete against wrestling. Jiu-Jitsu compete against wrestling, but I don't think we benefit as much of each other as we should. I think we could cross-training much, much more. It will be so much better for everybody. You know, like you get this unorthodox style from Jiu-Jitsu at wrestling tournaments, especially on this kids level, you know, because on the higher level, you have to do what you have to do. And then you bring this pressure, this meaningless, this strong will from the wrestling to Jiu-Jitsu, you know, is also very beneficial, you know. So I wish it was more crossover.
Yeah. I understand what you're saying. And probably people have a different goal, like you said, when starting out, a different motive for training. And if you look at Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling.
And on top of that, the wrestling here is a school sport, right? So, and then when it's a school sport, it's pretty much free.
Yeah.
So Jiu-Jitsu, you have to pay a club, you have to pay academy and stuff. That's another issue that, you know, it's just a different approach here in the United States.
Yeah, I understand. We have a final part of our interviews is Shark Tank. In a way that we ask some brief questions, and you can give a yes or no, or A or B answer, or just maybe the first thing that pops into your mind. Maybe Jan can go through it.
Yes. So, gi or no gi?
Gi.
Chokes or locks?
Choke or locks?
Yes.
Whatever works.
Specific sparring or drilling?
Sparring.
Your favorite technique?
Whatever works.
Your favorite competitor?
To watch or to face?
Let's say to face.
To face. Roger Gracie, because then I have to explain, because he's the one who beat me most. And then one day maybe I push him from the wheelchair and I could get my day.
Your favorite gi?
Storm.
Do you have a specific model that you like the most for training?
I like the T3. Is the competition gi, is the one I feel more comfortable training and competing.
Right.
And we are coming with some new stuff this year that I'm pretty sure you guys are going to enjoy.
Yeah, I heard. Yeah, looking forward to that.
What would you say is the hardest part of coaching?
not being there, is so much easy. I know that's supposed to be fast,
That's okay.
answer, but not competing. And man, it's so hard not being inside the mats. It's so hard tell people what to do and not be able to do with them and to compete, is so never wrecking, doing these things. But I'm getting better on that.
Is that in general something that lives in you a lot? Like maybe missing that feeling of the top competition days?
Yeah, I do missing I'm still competing on the master division.
Right.
But doesn't demand the same sacrifice, I'm not talking shit about the masters. It's just, I could go without the same commitment that I would have to do for the adult competition,
Yeah.
And I really miss, it's always like that on the back of your head, man. I could just training for 6 months and maybe I could get a chance. Maybe if the stars are on the right alignment,
Right.
and my God fairy mother shows up on that night, I could do something,
Let's do
But
it.
that's just lie to yourself, just wishful thinking,
Yeah.
It cannot happen.
And what do you think about American Jiu-Jitsu?
What is that? Jiu-Jitsu is Jiu-Jitsu. I don't know what is American Jiu-Jitsu, what is Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, what's Invisible Jiu-Jitsu, what is Nogi Jiu-Jitsu, what
So
is
Jiu-Jitsu.
competition Jiu-Jitsu, self-defense Jiu-Jitsu. That's all branding. That's all branding that people use to sell whatever suits to them, whatever they want you to buy.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Jiu-Jitsu is Jiu-Jitsu. When you do Jiu-Jitsu, you should be able to compete. You should be able to defend yourself. You should be able to be American, Brazilian, Canadian, African, Russian, whatever the fuck you come from. This is just attempt to narrow down. And then Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, that's all the same shit. That's all the same.
What warm-up music did you use during the times you became a world champion?
We need the secret.
None. I did not listen to music at that time. Now I'm changing a little bit. Now I have some music on my phone. I resist. Honestly, I just download music on my phone. First time was this year for my birthday. I have one says Comprido 43-year-old birthday. That's the name to my playlist.
Yeah.
To this point, I never really listened music, and I do very little now. I do a little bit, but I like to talk with people when I'm on the bullpen, like having my teammates and my instructors and listen things and watch my opponent. And then maybe listen to what somebody tell to him, and then get that last minute advice, feel that vibe, not put myself in a cocoon. And then once again, I don't think it's wrong people to use music to keep themselves on the zone, I like to get information, I like to get, there, and then Travis comes, hey, Comprido, come here. Dude, do this and that, because sometimes they can read on you. It is a handful of people who know me really well. If they see that I'm a little bit tense, or if they feel that I'm a little bit too relaxed, or if they feel that I'm tentative, they will call me up, and then they will talk with me. And then many times this helps. So I don't use music so much for that. In the academy, I fight with my students for years, because they wish to have classes with music, and I never liked that, because I think you have to be able to choose your pace. Okay, when you're training, when you're fighting, you have to be able to impose your pace. And then when you go with music is great because you can choose the pace for the person with the music. When you put a fast music, normally the training gonna be in a faster pace. If you put a slower music, the training tending to be a little bit in a lower pace, but I do like this idea that you have to change your pace during the training, during the fight, during the sparring, by yourself, and not by whatever is going on the environment. You have to make this decision by yourself, you know. The early ADCCs, they had these guys on the drums, you know, and then actually that worked really well, because every time that the fight starts to be heated, they start with the drums. And then they start to yell and stuff. And then you are on that heated exchange, and then suddenly you start to have the fast beating, and then you want to keep going, you know?
Yeah.
So for the people who are watching is great. For us, not so much, because you should sometimes stop that altercation, you know. Maybe you are losing that altercation. Maybe the other guy is faster than you. Maybe it's just time to stop, you know. So you have to be able to make your own decisions, and whatever external factor should not interfere in that. But I understand why people use music to train, and then now I leave sometimes loud music, low music. So yesterday I was doing a training and I put some Brazilian funk music. My students did not have a clue what was going on, and I was doing actually a hard workout, but in between I was dancing a little bit because you know, it was something that I used to listen on my childhood, you know. And then they are looking to be like, what the fuck, this guy's crazy, you know. But I don't use music, and that's my fast answer.
Yeah. Thank you.
And what do you think about knee reaping in the gi?
I don't like it all. I don't like it. Like, let me explain. Like this foot, when you do a foot lock and you go backward, I think you should be able to pass any leg on top. Okay. When you're reaping for real, you know, when you cross your knee over the leg with the intention to hurt the knee of your opponent, you know, maybe something that happened at that time, they don't have this rule, but I think it was Romulo Barral and Tarsis on the final of the Worlds 2012, if I'm not wrong, something like that. That I think should be illegal. You know, you twist the knee sideways, but just crossing the leg over, you know, I don't really see too much pressure when you pass the leg over, and then your goal is a straight foot lock. You know, but the rules are the rules, you know, we just have to follow them.
And what's your favorite sport outside of jiu-jitsu?
To practice or to watch?
Let's say to watch.
I would say bodyboard.
Bodyboard.
You know, bodyboard. Yeah, I was when I was young, I used to be a bodyboarder. My brother was a national champion in Brazil in bodyboarding.
Wow.
You know, I used to live a block away from the beach, and then my friends. You know, most of my friends are all bodyboarders. You know, all my friends who become a jiu-jitsu black, almost all my childhood friends become jiu-jitsu black belts. But we are all terrible bodyboarders. You know, like we all took our boards and bodyboarding in Ipanema. You know, so it's a sport that I like. I was recently in Hawaii, and
nice.
I was playing with a board over there and stuff.
Yeah, big waves.
Nah, not for me. I cannot surf those big waves, man. This thing needs balls and skills, a lot of skills, you know.
Yeah.
And we're at the last question of the Shark Tank. What do you say is your biggest accomplishment?
Yeah, there you got me. I think my biggest accomplishment is be true for my ideals, you know, for the stuff I believe. You know, the titles are obviously amazing, and then give me some voice. but through those years, I be able to do things that I want, the way I want and the way I believed, and then I make very, very clear for people what kind of person I am and what I expect to them and what I can offer to them, so I always been with the same group of people in Jiu-Jitsu. I always try to help my friends and my teammates, and I always been helped by them. And I think my biggest accomplishment was never had to sold myself. I could follow my line, follow my beliefs, and it was tough many times.
Yeah.
But I could do it, and I expect to keep doing this for a long time.
Do you think this is something that attracts a lot of people to Jiu-Jitsu? That it's something you can express yourself and kind of express and find your own truth?
No.
No.
What attracts people to Jiu-Jitsu is a bunch of bullshit. People wanna like, honestly, most of people wants to get in belts. They wanna say they got, like, I get students who tell, I'm gonna train in 2 months to be world champion. I said, dude, seriously, do you think somebody can train in 2 months to be a world champion? The world championship is accumulation of years of training.
Yeah.
Of years of commitment, of not going to parties, not eat what you wanna, commit, sacrifice, feel pain,
Right.
Today, people want whatever is fast, whatever they want a confirmation, whatever they believe. If you tell them, yeah, come to my academy because it's self-defense and you don't have to sweat and training hard to be good in Jiu-Jitsu, or come to my academy because they're going to make you a champion in 2 weeks, or come to my academy because they make you a black belt. And that's what the majority of the students come in Jiu-Jitsu for.
Yeah.
Because they see an easy way. You want to be a black belt? I get you a black belt. Like a black belt. What's a black belt? I can buy a black belt. What I cannot buy is knowledge. Like, I can buy knowledge, but it's not a transfer. It's not push a button, I can buy knowledge. I can pay you to teach me stuff, but demands time, demands commitment. You can tell me everything you know by something, and if I'm not committed, if I'm not paying attention, if I'm not exercising what you explain to me, I will not know nothing what you explain to me in 5 minutes. For you to understand Jiu-Jitsu, you have to commit. You have to try. You have to commit mistakes. Somebody gonna tell you, put the leg up. You will not believe on the guy. Why he's telling me to put the leg up? That's never made sense for me before. And then you're gonna put the leg up and you're gonna fall. And then you're gonna put again and you're gonna fall. And then the third time you're gonna feel a little bit wobbling. The fourth time you're gonna pass somebody's guard. And then you say, okay, that's why I should put my leg up. But you have to commit. You have to feel pain. You have to sweat. And then honestly, I don't see the majority of the Jiu-Jitsu practitioners going there to show to the world what they are about, to be true of the sport. I just feel that people are just after some eye candy, and be able to tell they do something. Well, that's not bad,
Yeah.
Whatever. You can start Jiu-Jitsu. I started Jiu-Jitsu because my cousin asked me to help him, like at that time, I was a bad kid, right? So my mom wasn't, like, I failed school so many times. My mom was not giving me nothing besides what she has to give me, like food, clothing, school. So my aunt was paying for me to do kickboxing because she believed I had to do a sport to calm down a little bit. Mm-hmm. And then my cousin, her son, asked me to go training Jiu-Jitsu with him. And I said, oh, fuck, I don't want to do that. All my friends doing Jiu-Jitsu. I want to be different. I want to still doing kickboxing. Because all my friends did kickboxing before. So I'm still in the kickboxing. I said, yeah, I'm going to kick at the head of somebody, blah, blah, blah. So my cousin invited me. And I said, you know what? I have to do it because at the end of the day, he's paying me for my kickboxing, like his aunt, his mother. And then he said, you can keep doing kickboxing. Just come to Jiu-Jitsu with me. 2 months later, I quit kickboxing and start training jiu-jitsu twice a day.
Yeah.
You know, so when I start, wasn't with the goal to make something of jiu-jitsu and then become something that I fall in love. So I don't care what brings people in, but once they are inside, I can try to change their mind, you know. But I think the majority of the people who came in are more for the reasons different than the reasons I wish for.
Yeah. Well, it's a powerful statement, and also good to hear that there's opportunity to mold them once they're inside. When they're
definitely is. We change so much through our lives. Look back to your life, the kid you were and the man you are now. You know, you change. People help you to change the ways to see stuff. Believe or not, I thought when I watched The First Apprentice that Trump could be a good president.
Yeah.
You know, so look, I could not change my mind any more than that, you know.
Right. Yeah,
so people change their mind. People start doing right things for the wrong reasons, doing wrong things for the right reasons, you know.
Yeah.
But I believe in be truthful, you know, and tell people the way it is, the way I feel things. And then I tell this to everybody. The only way you can like me is if you know me. You know, if I come here and say yes, sir, for everything, and then paint a beautiful picture of everything that I don't believe, how could you like me? How could you know me? How could you stand behind the stuff that I believe, you know? How could you understand the sport, you know? Because the sport is made by people with many, many different perspectives. You know, and then it's good and it's super important that it is on this way. You know, you cannot have everybody thinking exactly the same way, going on exactly the same direction. We will not have developed as much as we develop in jiu-jitsu. I don't know for a fact, but I believe jiu-jitsu is probably the sport with more innovation on a short period of time. On, you know, considering all the sports. You know, and the reason of that is because there's a lot of people thinking with different ways. You know, my way is not better than yours. It's just mine. You know, but I believe you have to know mine to then say, oh, okay, I like Comprido, I like what he does, or I don't like Comprido, I don't like what he does. But you knew who I am, what I stood for, and then you can make your own conclusion, you know?
Definitely. Yeah. We were at the last part of the interview. I think this is a very nice message also for people. Stay true to themselves and don't go for the flashy and the fast and the social media pictures and the dream of becoming a world champion in 2 weeks or something like that. I really want to thank you for your time and sharing your experience, your history and your knowledge also. And I really hope that from Friday on the academy can open successfully, and of course everybody stays safe and things will kind of go back to normal soon.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to talk about my life and jiu-jitsu a little bit. It's a great pleasure to be with you guys. It's a great pleasure to have your audience listen to me. If you guys ever come around Chicago, I'm on the suburbs. I'm in Bloomingdale. Stop by on the academy. Come and
love that.
Yeah, a little bit.
We will.
As soon as the travel is allowed, we're trying to jump on a plane and see if we can come over. That would be great.
It will be a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, thanks a lot, then, and good luck in the coming days also.
Thank you.
Yeah. Take care.
Okay.